But without further ado, anyone that's here wanted to say welcome and thank you so much for being here. Want to say thank you so much for the PSC Biotech team to come here and talk to us today all about interviewing. And with that, I will pass it over to PSC Biotech so they can get this presentation started.
Awesome. Thank you, Natasha. So today, it's a workshop regarding interviews and just the, job process as a whole. So there we go. Jillian, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Jillian. I've been with PSC Biotech for 3 years as our recruitment coordinator. I also lead our student recruitment, so for internships and with recent grads. And then I specifically recruit for our CDMO in New York, Pennsylvania. So that's called Biotechnique. Prior to PSC Biotech, I earned my master's in higher education, leadership, and policy studies. And I worked as a college advisor for seniors in high school. So, really helping them navigate the college admissions process. And then I also served as chair of our recruitment committee, so hiring and interviewing additional college advisors as well.
All right, and I am Elizabeth. I am the recruiting manager here at PSC. I've been with the company for 2 years and some change. I started out my career in Gainesville, Florida at a CDMO. It was a startup actually called Aranta Bio. And they are now split to Inceptor Bio. But yeah, it was really unique. That's when I, got my foot in the life sciences industry. And yeah, no, I'm here at PSC. So in my free time, I do some career coaching. And I am actually in 2 weeks, I will be starting my classes towards getting my SHRM certification in the talent acquisition specialty. So my team here at PSC, we cover, North America, the US, and Canada, as well as the Philippines too. So it's very exciting and very rewarding. And Justin.
Yes, hi, I'm Justin Cantor. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for PSC Biotech. I've been with the company for 10 years now, and I'm responsible for business development, account management, and project delivery for our professional services life science clients, especially in Southern California. I help manage the operations of the overall company. And prior to joining PSC, I had a variety of operations roles at pharma biotech companies like Genentech, Grifols, and Gilead. I've also been very active in our local chapter of the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering.
So the biggest question that you guys are probably asking is, who is PSC? What do we do? So we do a lot of stuff. So as you can see here, we have 3 different divisions of the company. So PSC Biotech, we are a life sciences consulting company. So we offer validation services, regulatory, quality, compliance, audits, metrology and calibration, project management, even technical writing. And we are global, actually. So very exciting stuff. If you go onto our website, you'll be able to see all of our different locations. So we also have PSC software. It's a software that we created and we sell and service it to clients. And it is a quality management system through the software that we created is called ACE. And honestly, there's so many capabilities that you can do with it, even down to, using it for business auditing, documentation, even our HR team uses it as well. So very, very diverse. And then like Jillian mentioned, we have Biotechnique. So Biotechnique is located in York, Pennsylvania, and it's a CMO, and we focus in fill finish services. From investigational to clinical to final marketed product. So that's a little bit about the company. And I will pass it over to Jillian to just chat a little bit about why your resume is so important, and Justin will get into more of the technical aspect of a resume.
Yeah, so yeah, we can definitely pass this on to Justin. I know we're more focused on interviewing best practices and tips today, but of course, you know, we did feel it was important to kind of just mention resumes, since you really can't land an interview if you don't have, you know, an effective resume to begin with. So yeah, you can go ahead, Justin.
Excellent. Yeah, so that is the first thing I'd like to talk about is resumes. As Jillian mentioned, you can't talk about interviewing without talking about resumes, since the purpose of a resume is to get an interview. And the way that a resume can get you an interview is by getting your resume past an initial screening by an actual person. In order to get through this initial screening, you'll want to have your resume in the hands of a real live person. If you're trying to get a job by applying to 200 positions online and having an algorithm recognize keywords in your resume, it's probably not going to go very well. But if you can learn a little bit about a specific job that you want and then tailor your resume to that job by highlighting specific aspects of your experience, then you'll have a better chance. And if you do just a little research to find out who's in human resources or recruiting or who the hiring manager is at your target company, then you can send your resume directly to that person and you'll be far ahead of other mass applicants. One way to tailor your resume is in your list of accomplishments. For each role that you've had, you need to identify a couple of things that you've accomplished in that role and then list them out under each role. If you have 5 accomplishments at a job and 3 of them are relevant to the job that you're applying for, those should be first in your list. And maybe the other 2 aren't included in this version of your resume at all. To clarify though, copy pasting in the job description or listing out the job responsibilities is not the same as a list of accomplishments. Responsibilities tell what everyone in that role is expected to do, while accomplishments identify how well you did in your role. And while you're identifying your accomplishments, make sure you briefly explain technical terms, for instance, by expanding non-obvious acronyms, because not everyone who is reviewing your resume will understand them without a little clarification. Often the first gatekeeper is in human resources or recruiting, and they may not be familiar with all of the terms that you use. This doesn't mean that you should include a long list of equipment you've used or coding languages you know. Don't include a bunch of jargon, especially if it's specific to a particular company you worked at, because no one will know what you're talking about. This is another tactic that's often used to impress algorithms, and you want to bypass those algorithms. And you want to make sure that you have someone review your resume before you send it off. Typos will get you put straight into the reject pile, and factual errors will be embarrassing if they come up during the interview or background check. Typos don't always show up in spell check or grammar check, and having someone else take a look with fresh eyes can help catch them before clicking send. Checking your dates against source documents like school transcripts is very beneficial if you can do it, as these are common errors that cause problems later. You definitely should be able to get the list of your jobs with accomplishments and your education on a single page. I've used a single page resume when I was applying to PSC Biotech, and that was after an almost 20-year career. If you have a 2-page resume or longer at this stage of your career, I can guarantee there's a lot of fluff, copy-pasted job descriptions, blank space, a list of references that you don't need to include, photos of yourself, or an introductory paragraph that doesn't need to be included. Cut that stuff down and get it onto 1 page. And now I'll pass it over to you guys.
Thank you, Justin. All right, so now, you know, after you pass the resume stage and you submit an application, you're going to get an email or a call from the company that wants to give you an interview. So these are just best practices that we put together that we've, you know, kind of seen in the industry as far as do's and don'ts. So Jillian is going to go over that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so this will be some best practices in general for interviewing, and then in a little bit, Justin will also share, you know, how you can just prepare and be successful in a more like technical interview. setting as well. So first things first, you always want to demonstrate that you've come prepared for your interview. And one of the best ways to do that is by doing your research about the company. So, especially if you are at a point where you're kind of submitting applications for multiple positions at the same time, you really want to make sure that you understand the company's mission, their products, their services, and so on. Understanding the company's background will really allow you to speak about your own skills and your own accomplishments to show how you specifically could contribute to the company's overall success. And then this is also, a great opportunity for you to ask intentional and informed questions to the interviewer, just regarding what you've learned so far in your research. And then showing, that you've done your research and have that solid understanding of the company leads us to the next tip as well, showing enthusiasm. So it really just allows you to show your genuine interest in joining their team and that you're serious about the opportunity. And showing enthusiasm and expressing genuine interest in the opportunity is pretty straightforward, but it can be tricky if maybe you're nervous or you feel like you should have prepared more. In my experience in interviewing, I can tell if someone is genuinely excited, and keyword being genuinely, about the opportunity in a few ways. And one being as simple as their tone of voice and just the conversation overall. So right away, you want to be friendly, you want to be upbeat while still being yourself. If you feel like you're someone who maybe is more laid back or maybe more monotone, just try to be mindful of that when going into an interview. Unfortunately, it can be sometimes portrayed negatively in relation to your overall interest in the opportunity. So, and then of course, your body language says a lot too. So just be mindful of that as well. You're making eye contact, you're focused, and you're fully really present in the conversation. And as mentioned, being able to demonstrate that you've done your research about the company and the specific role will really allow you to share your positive experiences that directly relate to what the company is looking for. And again, reiterating your enthusiasm. So, for example, let's say a major function of the role that you're applying to in the job description is collaborating across internal teams, for example. So I might share, I was excited that this role includes working across departments and internal teams. I feel that my experience at XYZ really allowed me to develop my collaboration skills, and I found that I really enjoyed taking the lead and ensuring effective communication to really keep everyone on track and to meet our project goals. And again, asking thoughtful questions. So there will, always be time set in your interview so that you can ask questions. So do try to have at least, one question prepared, whether it's something you learned in your research, maybe about the company values, or even just a question related to your specific position that you're applying to, like the day-to-day responsibilities and what each day will look like. And then, of course, sending that follow-up email and thank you. So it just shows your, continued interest in the opportunity. Hiring managers are often decided between many strong candidates. So just sending a prompt follow-up to reiterate your interest can, really make a difference to show your commitment and your eagerness for the opportunity. And then going into some of the don'ts, don't be late. I think that goes without saying, but this really is your first impression, and being late to an interview doesn't really demonstrate good time management, and it can give the impression that you're not the most dependable person. And of course, you may have never been to the interview location before, so you really want to prepare ahead of time, make sure you know how you're getting there, map out the expected commute time. And then it's the same for a virtual interview as well. It's just important to test your connection. I know my mic isn't working the best today, but test your connection and your technology ahead of time so you don't, run into any issues right when your interview is set to start. Of course, life happens, emergencies are out of our control, but just make sure, to communicate that to your point of contact for the interview as early as you can. And then don't ramble. So, really try to stay concise and stay focused and stay relevant to the question that's been asked. We, as interviewers, we have your resume right in front of us. So during the interview, we aren't looking for the candidate to recite their entire resume back to us. If you're, kicking off the interview, sharing more about yourself, that's very standard, very typical. The interviewer may ask, let's get started. Can you tell me more about yourself? Share the parts about you that aren't already listed on your resume. And then same goes for if we are asking a question to kind of elaborate on your experience that is listed on your resume, we're really looking for you to discuss your skills and experience in more detail in a way that probably can't be listed on one concise bullet point. But again, the main takeaway here is really, just stay focused on the question that's been presented to you, and we will talk more about kind of what interviewers are typically looking for out of your response when asking a specific question. So don't speak negatively, yes. So when sharing your experiences and responding to interview questions, really try to refrain from speaking negatively about previous companies, maybe team members. You really just want to be able to show that you're a positive team player, you're collaborative, you can take ownership. So for example, if asked to share about a time that a challenge arose during a specific experience, you don't want to make that someone else's fault. You really want to focus on how you were able to problem solve, how you were able to adapt, and whatever the downfall may have been, you don't want it to look like you're putting that blame on somebody else. And then, of course, don't interrupt the interviewer. So that just kind of goes with your communication and interpersonal skills. Again, an interview really is an intentional and thoughtful conversation. So you just want to be able to demonstrate that you have those interpersonal skills, that you can communicate effectively, and you can build strong relationships. And then, yes. Oh, did we miss a slide? Yeah, here we go. So behavioral interview questions. So you should always expect behavioral interview questions and not just questions that may be focused on your technical experience. Your traits are just as important, if not more important, as your technical expertise. So these questions, the behavioral interview questions, are really intentionally designed to assess your specific skills and competencies that are required from you for that job. The other thing I'd like to note is that you can certainly prepare for these types of questions, and you should prepare. So I understand you don't want to sound like you're, reciting a script, but these are the types of questions that you can, have responses prepared and ready to go in your back pocket, so that you'll be able to tackle the questions and deliver a much more effective and thoughtful response when you're prepared. So really, in these types of questions, your responses are giving us, as the interviewers, a deeper understanding of maybe your thought processes, your decision-making abilities, your problem-solving skills, and so on and so on. And it really just allows you to showcase your personality and your skills more effectively and more genuinely. So these are just some examples. Tell me about a time when you faced a challenge in a project. How did you overcome it? That's always going to come up in some shape or form. And that's what I mean by being able to have kind of your response to a similar question in your back pocket and ready to go. Because what we're really looking for is, what are your problem solving skills? How did you handle that? Were you able to adapt? Can you provide an example of a time when you had to prioritize multiple tasks or projects? Really looking to evaluate what the candidate's time management skills are. What are their organization skills like? Share an experience when you had to learn a new skill or technology. Again, may not be the exact question, but in some shape or form, we're really looking for the candidate to showcase their ability and their drive to learn. So are you confronted with kind of an obstacle that might be outside of your scope, and how are you going to handle that? How are you going to adapt? Can you describe a situation where you had to communicate a complex idea to someone with limited knowledge in that area? Again, we want to see your leadership skills and your communication skills overall. So there's always an intentional reason why these questions are being asked.
And with these behavioral questions, there is a method to answering them. So during the time of your preparation, think of it more as a systematic approach, right? So I like to use the term STAR, so situation, task, action, and result. And you can break down your answers to these specific categories to formulate the best answer possible. So for situation, you want to start by providing context for your answer. So, letting the interviewer know the situation or scenario of whatever example you're providing, right? And then you want to go into your task. So explain your role and responsibilities in the given situation. This is where you set the stage for your actions. And actions, you want to describe the specific actions that you did take in response to the situation. So if something, if you had a conflict or you didn't meet a deadline, right? That's your situation. And then you want to explain the task that you had in that and what action did you take. And then, of course, result, we want to know what was the outcome of your situation, right? So you want to share the outcome, of course, highlight any positive impact or lessons that you learned from the experience. So with that, here are a couple of answers. So sorry, I'm a slide ahead in my mind. This is a question that I put together. So this is really common. Can you tell me about a time when you had to work on a team project with a tight deadline? So for the interviewer, this is not only assessing your, team, your team building and your communication skills, but it's also testing your time management. So when we're using the STAR method, how do we break this down? So the situation, during my junior, so this is how you would start to form your answer. So situation, so during my junior year, I was a part of a team in a software development course at my university where we were assigned a complex project with a tight deadline of 3 weeks. Okay, and then the task, as a team member, my responsibility was to develop the front-end interface and ensure it integrated smoothly with the back-end functionalities. So what was the action that I had to take? This is not me, by the way. Sorry, I had to move the speaker panel so I can read this. Okay, so action. I initiated daily stand-up meetings to track our progress, identified potential roadblocks early on, and collaborated closely with the team members to address them. I also took the initiative to research and implement an efficient coding framework that streamlined the development process. So what was the result of all of that? Thanks to our concerted efforts and effective communication, we not only met the deadline, but also delivered a high quality product that received praise from both our professors and peers. So this is using the systematic approach in terms of breaking down your answer. You don't have to do this for every single question, but it's good that if you have this piece of knowledge in the back of your mind when answering questions. Another tip that I always like to do, I didn't put it in the slide, but you want to state why you did something, or you want to state how you did something, why you did something, and then quantify. So how, why, quantify, that's my little saying that I do. So here are a couple of common questions, common behavioral questions that you might see during the interview process. And I don't know what your resumes look like, but these questions are a lot more common for students that have recently graduated. So I don't know, I can't see Jeanette's screen, so I can't see who's all in the meeting room, but if you guys just want to take a picture of this or quickly write it down, this can kind of give you a framework in terms of maybe what to expect in your interviews, and how to break that down as well. Okay, now we're going to go over to Justin, and he's going to talk about technical interview tips.
Sure, yes, thank you. So the challenge with technical interviews is that talking about your technical experiences isn't the only aspect of the interview that you'll be evaluated on. So I have some additional tips for technical interviews. The first one is to dress up. Some people looking for technical roles can be sloppy because they think their knowledge should speak for itself, or that wearing the latest software developer tech bro fashion they saw in Wired will impress the interviewer. but you don't have enough experience yet to dress sloppy and let your skills do the talking. And those trendy people that you see in those magazines already have the jobs that you want. So you need to dress up for the occasion. Technical interviews don't delve into technical questions right off the bat. There's always a little bit of time at the beginning of the interview or at the end of the interview as you're walking to or from the conference room, or while everyone is getting settled, or while the last person is joining the Zoom interview, when some small talk will occur. You need to be prepared to contribute by being aware of what's happening in the world. It's an awkward start to a conversation when the interviewer is trying to chat with you and you just sit there waiting for the quote unquote important part of the interview to start. They're all important parts, and if you can't hold up your end of a conversation, then an interviewer will wonder what it's going to be like working with you day in and day out for years. And just like with your resume, you need to tailor your interview answers to the interviewer. Not everyone who interviews you will have the same depth of knowledge as you do, so be prepared to adjust your answers to the interviewer as the discussion goes along. This doesn't mean to dumb it down for them. It means being able to explain what you did and how you did it without relying on an excessive amount of obscure technical terms. And the key to successfully answering an interview question is to directly answer the question right away when it is asked. A common example that gets used for this is if someone asks for your GPA, you need to answer with a number, your GPA. If your GPA is 3.5, say my GPA was 3.5. If your GPA was 2.5 like me, then say my GPA was 2.5. And then if you've got an explanation for a less than stellar GPA, you can talk about it. You don't want to start with the story first and give the number later, as this can give the impression that you're avoiding the question.
That's very true. And also this, Justin, one thing that you mentioned, tailoring your answers to your interviewer. This goes back on the point when we talked about doing the research before you do your interviews. So, 9 times out of 10, before you walk through that door, before you click to join the Zoom meeting, you're going to know who you're meeting with, right? Somebody coordinated it. Somebody might have sent you a prep email. So do research on that person too. It's very important, and you might be able to find, whether it's on LinkedIn or the company website, they might share some fun facts about themselves, and that will also alleviate the awkwardness of the beginning small talk. Maybe that's a point that you can bring up too. So, and this kind of transitions into networking. So Jillian, if you want to talk a little bit about networking, I have some things to add at the end as well.
Yeah, no, I think the one thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of networking and making connections was definitely the career services opportunity that you have right at your university. I know personally, like for probably my first couple years at university, it just wasn't something I was thinking of or taking advantage of. And the second I did take advantage of it, it was kind of a wake-up call. I did like a mock interview, and it was a lot harder than I had imagined, but it did teach me a lot. So from, like Justin said, have someone review your resume. That's the perfect, team of people to have review your resume. And the mock interviews. I think having a practice interview is one of the best ways you can prepare for an interview. And then there's lots of other opportunities and resources with career services. I don't know all of the details at your university, but the events they're putting on, there's a lot of opportunity to meet people in the industry and make those connections. So that's kind of what I really wanted to emphasize is taking advantage of those resources.
I love it. Yeah, and this is a snippet right from HarveyMudd.com. So that is your career services menu. Make sure you use it. Another thing, Jillian, that you kind of touched on was practice interviews. So, going into the industry, right? Informational interviews are very, very helpful. especially when you're prepared with questions. So you can reach out to somebody on LinkedIn and, you know, start chatting with them and ask for an informational interview, because you just want to get, you know, what does the company do? You can just, as a whole, get more insight of the industry as well as how it operates, right? And you just made that connection. Also seminars as well, seminars, webinars, conferences, whatever interests you. That's really big too. I don't know the stats on how many, you know, people generally attend, but there's a lot of people to network with, and who knows, you might sit next to your next boss one day, right? A couple social media platforms, Twitter, well, it's now X, but we won't talk about that. I prefer Twitter, so that's why I put Twitter here. Believe it or not, Twitter is actually a really interesting platform to network on. There's employers on Twitter. There's employer voices and employer faces for, gosh, a lot of different types of industries. And Twitter actually has jobs on it. So, you know, the marketing person for the company that you know, really want to get into, they will post a tweet on Twitter, and, you know, it'll say, hey, we're hiring here, and you can comment, like, share, you know, just interact, right? And then LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a really big one. If you don't have LinkedIn, sign up today and start creating your account. So a couple of tips there, you know, make sure you have a nice PFP, a nice profile picture. We don't, you know, want to see a profile picture of you at the football games with your friends, but, you know, make sure it's a nice, appealing profile picture, as well as adding a header too. Think of it as your Instagram or Facebook profile. You know, it's Facebook, but for the professional world. So you can really customize it to fit you and to fit your personality. LinkedIn is also good in a number of ways. There's groups on there that you can join. There's jobs that you can apply to. You can research companies on there. You can connect with individuals in companies. And that kind of goes back to, I think it was Justin or Jillian mentioned, you know, talking to the recruiting and HR. So I'll give you a little bit of a tip or trick. So if you go on a company's page, you can go to people, and you can see who the HR person is, or who their recruiting person is, or let's say it's a job in engineering, and you can find the, you know, director of engineering. It would be great to network with those people. Maybe you don't get the job, but try to ask if you can have, you know, an informational interview with the director of engineering. Or let's say you are applying to a specific job that they posted, you can send a personalized message to those people, and you can kind of fast track your application as well. Another thing that is a lot of people don't think about is, you know, finding the email addresses. So if you can find the company's email domain, and how they kind of format, you basically have anybody's email in the company. So to give you an example, our email domain is at biotech.com. And the way we list it, it's first initial and then last name. So pretty much everybody in the companies, mine is Cornelius at biotech.com. Justin's is J Cantor at biotech.com, J Lake at biotech.com. So once you have that email domain and you really understand how they, you know, it might be first dot last name or whatever the case may be, you can pretty much email anybody, and you can send in your resume through that as well. And I'm sure it'll get to the right person. I'm trying to think if there's any other tips that I want to give. Networking in general is just really important with anything that you're doing in life, especially when it comes to, you know, getting a job, right, and applying. So you just want to network with anybody that you can, and it might seem meaningless, but you might bump into them 10 years down the road, and they might be the, you know, general manager of a CMO site, and you're actually looking for a job. You just never know. And kind of as to why I put this background in here. I can't move the stuff out of the way, but let's say that this is you. You know this person knows this person, and this person, and then this person knows this person and this person. So if you need to get in touch with somebody or want to, network with somebody that probably knows somebody that knows that person, and that's how you kind of just work your way through. But that's all that I had. Justin, did you have any extra stuff you wanted to add?
I would just say that there, in addition to some of these things, there are opportunities for student involvement in professional organizations. I mentioned at the beginning that I'm involved heavily with the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering. They have student chapters, other industries have similar groups, and those student chapters have, in our organization, have access to pharmaceutical plant tours, meetings with executives, lots of opportunities for networking with the people who have the jobs in the companies that you want to work for. And the student engagement with those organizations are all relatively low cost to encourage participation. So I would recommend keeping an eye out for relevant organizations like that will have the people that you want to know participating in them.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, Jeanette, Natasha, and Rowan. And yeah, just feel free to ask us any questions. Again, we're all three on LinkedIn, so send us a connection request. We'd love to chat. And yeah, I wish you guys the best on your success.
Yes, thank you so much, Jillian, Elizabeth, and Justin, for speaking with us and sharing your wisdom, and especially for offering for our students to contact you afterward. That's so valuable, and I hope that everyone that's here is going to take advantage of that. But otherwise, we hope that you have a great day and take care, and thank you again so much.